This is When the Fuck Did I Become Old, the fun, edgy and unapologetically honest podcast about the experiences of ageing, where, as the title suggests, nothing is off the table. And I'm your host, Jo Parker.
And I'm Kev. And this week we're going to be talking about who needs friends anyway, and why having friendship in midlife is such an important thing, but also why it's not always the easiest thing to try and do. But if you get it right, it can absolutely be a game changer for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is brought about by the fact that recently I have met somebody who I used to know when I was 15, which is so long ago.
True.
It's just like, actually, do I just reignite the friendship? Or, I mean, that's 40 something years and the rest gone. So is it a friend or not? And it's just this conversation that we're having today is because I'm thinking about friendships and how we forge them at our age.
And the power of friendship has been an enduring phenomenon in the media, right? So most notably Friends itself, right?
Oh yeah,
so
of course.
As a TV series, Friends was on for 30 something years, 32 years ago it started actually.
Wow.
It was 1994. Was
it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And even now, Friends is the biggest streaming UK show.
Still.
Wow.
And
Netflix have just signed another $100 million deal to renew their franchise for another year. And number 4 in the UK was Stranger Things, actually. So you hear a lot about Stranger Things.
Well, that's because a lot of the Gen Z watching it.
But
Friends, mind you,
I was just surprised.
Friends, it goes across all
it does.
generations.
So I mean, just the fact that program is so popular, obviously brilliantly written, brilliantly acted, but nevertheless, at its heart, it is about a group of friends, right? So that's the construct it uses. And so we should just talk a little bit about what friendship actually is and why, as a relationship, a friendship relationship is slightly different to other relationships that you might have. So the main element of friendship, or the main differentiator, is that it's not obligatory.
You're talking about comparing it to family,
or even work, right? You can have work relationships which are where people are obliged to do various things with you or for you. Family relationships have obligations in them. Friendship is entirely voluntary.
Right.
So a friendship is defined as a voluntary personal relationship based on mutual affection, trust, support, and characterized invariably by an interest in shared activities and companionship. So that's what a friendship actually is. Yeah. Now, why is it good for you? There's quite a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, there is. So when we started to talk about friendship, I wanted to have a look and see, whether or not I was abnormal by not having a lot of friends, or close friends. And there's a piece of research from an Alexandra Thompson from Newcastle University who interviewed over 300,000 people about friendships, about what they're important, and also what became out of that report, and is quite obvious nowadays, is that as the traditional family disintegrates, and we no longer have mother, father, and kids, and we no longer have man and woman, and we no longer necessarily talk to our parents as we have displayed in previous episodes, it becomes more and more important that the psychological benefits of the emotional support of friends is quite important to us. So I wanted to have a look at why, what it is about friendships that is so important, and is sort of like, it's not judgmental and all of those things, and how it impacts our lives. And in this particular piece of research, which we're going to refer back to a lot, is she over 7.5, she followed this group of individuals for 7.5 years, and she found that people with adequate social relationships have a 50% greater likelihood of survival compared to those with poor or insufficient social relationships. So the need, as pack animals, the need to be supported and to have that emotional support,
so you
is really
live longer.
Absolutely.
Or stand more of a chance of living longer.
And I experienced that. Yeah, I experienced that as a single parent with no parents of my own. I needed the support of my friends. They're really, really important, and some of my friends became, my siblings, so to speak. So it was I totally relate to the fact that actually, had I been doing this by myself, or doing that by myself, it would have been hugely detrimental to my well-being as well as to that of the kids, I think, too.
So, I mean, in addition to the longevity point,
Yeah.
there's obviously friendship in itself is a mitigant for loneliness, right? So
Yeah.
you can suffer with being lonely, but and loneliness isn't necessarily just about volume of social connection, right? It's about quality of social connection. And so one of the themes that we'll be exploring today is about how you look for quality
over quantity.
Over quantity.
Especially as you get older.
Yeah,
especially
and we'll
as you
get
get
into
older,
that.
yeah.
We'll get into that a bit later on. But the loneliness phenomenon, we talked in a couple of episodes back about the happiness curve. Turns out the loneliness curve also exists and is also U-shaped.
Okay.
And the cohorts of the population that report, given that loneliness is a psychological thing, right? Loneliness doesn't mean you have no friends.
No, and it doesn't mean you're alone
Loneliness just
either,
means that you long for a degree of social cohesion that you haven't been able to attain. So it depends what you're hoping for, but it's that gap. It's the gap between the yearning for a level of social cohesion and your inability to meet that. And when you're unable to meet that, you consider yourself lonely. So the cohorts that report the highest sensation of loneliness are, bizarrely, very young people and very old people. and in the middle, people are less lonely, or they report less loneliness.
Why very? I can see very old as as the runway shortens, your friends pop off the end. Why younger people?
It's how you measure it, right?
Okay.
So I think the challenge in the younger end is that actually your desired level of friendship is very, very, very high. Right? You require a lot of friends, and you require to be in part of a large number of social groups. When you can't achieve that, you feel you've failed, you feel inadequate, you feel lonely. Right? So you're measuring different things.
Yeah.
At the far end of the curve, it's people who genuinely,
don't have
are
friends.
lonely and half their friends have died, type of thing. So it's a completely different thing, but it's a subjective measurement. But anyway, the point is, interestingly, that's an extremity thing, right? And you can actually do something to deal with that, and we'll come on to that later on.
Yeah.
But so that's isolation and loneliness. Now, you talked about people, dissolution of the family unit.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit more about that then. So the generation of friends as synthetic family.
Yeah, and synthetic support systems
right,
as
so there
well.
are particular communities that lend themselves to that, right? So the LGBTQA community.
Who've fallen out with their
so this is a phenomenon called fictive kin, apparently.
Okay.
So there are groups of people who develop friendships so strong that they become essentially a replacement for family, or they become as strong as family.
Do you think that's because in that particular instance, it's because their fictive kin understand them more than their family do, and therefore can support their emotional and psychological well-being? So
there's a variety of different communities that experience this phenomenon. So LGBTQA is one, and you're right. One of the compensating techniques is for, back to the friendship as shared interest. If you're sharing a lifestyle, right, and if your family don't share that lifestyle, and if you experience discrimination or adverse treatment within the family as a result of that, then clearly you're longing for social connections and support, emotional support, is not met, right? So that's definitely one cohort that are quite strong on fictive kin, but they're not the only ones. There are also people that just don't choose to have children, right? So if you aren't going to have a family of your own, and or if your parents are deceased, right? Then your friendship group becomes much more important to you because that's the entirety of your world, right? You don't have that traditional family support system. So that's another area where friendships become so strong and so key that they are essentially family. And they talk about this concept of chosen family or selective family.
Which is also those single parents, I would say so. Single parents, single parents with no parents doing it all by herself. My community and my network of friends was really important to me because they were the ones that would babysit. They were the ones that would pick up a child if I couldn't make it. They were the ones that would, I don't know, feed us at the weekends if I was exhausted or if I was ill. So there's times when I've been ill, I didn't have a parent to come and look after children. So the importance of that, which is for me, is really, it was huge. And because there are more single parents now than there ever were, because as you pointed out in a previous episode, 50% of people who get married get divorced. So there are a lot of people who are living on their own who may well be isolated from parents who don't have parents that are alive. So it's the friendship thing becomes a whole different level of importance to everybody like that. And also we're put into this situation around COVID as well, but I'll talk about that later, of having to choose quality rather than quantity.
So let's come on to that bit later on.
Okay.
But having established what friendship is and why it's important and the benefits of it, there is a question there, which is, well, why is that any more important in midlife than it is at any other point?
Yeah. Why is it more important?
So I think the life raft thing, I believe you were going to talk about the life raft for the sandwich generation. There's this challenge, isn't there, where in the middle of life, 40s and 50s, where you're caring up and you're caring down.
Yeah, we have talked about the sandwich generation before. So in terms of, we've got kids that haven't quite left home, parents that aren't ready for a home but need a level of care, and you've still got a job as well. So that also ties in with the happiness curve, because at that point you are probably at your lowest because things are just stacking up.
Right. So if you're carrying both those directions, where do you get your emotional support from? You're not going to get it from the kids because you're busy looking after them. You're not going to get it from the parents because you're busy looking after them.
Yeah, and the friendship groups and the friendships that you have become very, very important, because we're definitely at the stage now where it's quality over quantity, because you don't have the time to go out and find more friends or to contact friends or to see friends. It's got to be, when you see them, they have got to be engaging, emotionally, fun, the whole thing. So actually we get to a stage in life, which is around about here, where we just need somebody to, have our back when we're falling. And there's that
and that's the emotional resilience.
Yeah, that's the emotional resilience, but also it's a place where you can be yourself as well. So the friendships, I think, going in as you get older, deepen because of this life raft place that we find ourselves in. We actually need to be able to say, I'm having a terrible time. Sort of confidence is low. It's like, actually, no bullshit. No, it's not like, I'm fine, it's great, blah blah blah.
So those are absolutely in that tricky midlife point. You need a space where you can be authentic, and you might not be able to do that in the family unit. And you need a space where if you are carrying everybody else, where you can get some support yourself, right? So, and friendships are a vehicle which, if you get it right, can give you both of those things.
Yeah, and they become kind of vital for survival, don't they, really? You absolutely need an outlet where someone's not going to throw it back in your face. If you tell your parents, you absolutely can't do this anymore, or you tell your children you hate them because they're misbehaving every single day and they won't go to bed on time, or what? No, it's a little bit older, isn't it? But you tell your children you're disappointed in their results, or blah, blah, blah. You want somebody actually can just say, this is annoying me, this is annoying me, this is annoying me, and not judge you and not throw it back in your face in an argument later on, which would happen could happen inside a family unit when you are under immense stress. It becomes so vital, actually, that in the research that we've done, there was a Harvard study of adult development on friendships, which I was really fascinated by. So, and this is for midlife, okay? So isolation in midlife carries health risks comparable to smoking up to 15, and he said 16, 15 cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
Conversely, close friendships can lower the risk of heart disease, stroke, depression, and dementia. Well, that's phenomenal.
It is. And so you definitely need friends then.
You do.
Because there's too many good things about
health benefits as well.
But then the trouble is that at that particular point in your life, it's actually one of the hardest points to maintain or indeed build friendships, because you're extremely time poor due to the pressures of raising a family and possibly supporting elderly relatives too. Yeah, you're invariably really, really, really busy with work as well.
Yeah.
So you're time poor and you don't have a lot of opportunity other than your immediate circle to actually socialize. And the pools that you've gone fishing for friends in the past, some of those pools have been and gone, right? So the three biggest places where anybody gets friends, according to the studies anyway, and they're not terribly surprising because they're forced socialization environments. School, thousands of kids at school. University, tens of thousands of students at university. And work, thousands of people in your office. And if you're in a big company. So
and going back to schools for mums, schools.
Right, and then back into school, if you're raising kids.
For different,
it's your kids'
different
school,
parts
not
of
your school.
schools. Yeah, absolutely.
And so those kind of like forced social mechanisms of mass participation are pretty obviously where you gather the easiest friendships. Now, not all of those carry forward through life, obviously. And once you've got to that midlife point, depending upon your profession and your role, sometimes it can be quite hard to actually make friends at work because maybe you're the boss of something or of someone or head of a team or a department or something. So not always easy to convert work relationships into genuine friendships.
Yeah.
So then if you look outside of work and you go, well, okay, how do I build relationships there? There are some barriers there to reaching out to people.
Which is something that I'm experiencing, and having to be creative about it. So, having moved in with you 3 years ago.
Is it my fault now?
3 years. It's all your fault. Yes, 3 years ago. I moved away. I'm 40 miles away from where I was. So I do. So I do have friends that I made at the school gates, and the school gates, the kids, who are really important to me because they were my social and my emotional and my health benefits when the kids are growing up. And so, even though the proximity has changed, the emotional connection still hasn't, and we still can whinge about our children if we need to. But I actively had to go and look for other friends in Surrey. So and that requires making an effort. That requires choosing groups of people, places where people connect and collect together. So the networking group that I joined, in terms of looking for other people that are entrepreneurs and doing the same type of things in business, i.e. they're not working in the corporate industry. I had joined a gym. We've been away on a retreat together and we've made friends there, and I'm trying to do paddle and trying to integrate into some kind of paddle community, even though I'm absolutely shit at the moment because we haven't done anything for a while. But it's interesting is how it changes when you're older. Is if you don't make an effort, it doesn't happen. And I'm experienced that. You absolutely have to keep inviting people to do things. You've experienced some of that as well, haven't you?
I have, yeah. So we were both last year making various efforts in our own way to kind of go, well, okay, how can we increase our social circle with different motivations, actually. So, I mean, my motivation was in part that, one day in the not too distant future, I will be retired, right? I'm 62, so it won't be forever.
You won't be going into London all the time.
And all the books you read about preparing for retirement, they go, you absolutely need a life, right, outside of work. So we bumped into an ex-colleague of mine. About a year and a half ago now. Ex-work colleague of mine, but who I had known for like several decades. And we bumped into him in a pub on Boxing Day.
Christmas Day, actually.
Was it? Oh, it was Christmas Day. You're right. Yeah, it was Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And he recognised me before I recognised him. We got talking, he was going to have a party in the summer. He invited us to the party.
Yeah.
We like music. He happens to be in a band.
Yeah.
And turns out he's got a motorcycle. I've got a motorcycle. So we met some people there who actually we really got on with. We thought, oh my God, this is amazing. This lives locally, you know. Fantastic. We should definitely, we did the whole, we should definitely meet up thing. We should definitely meet up. And other people have said that to us. No, we should definitely meet up.
They did.
Swap numbers, blah, 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 blah. And here I am, well, not, 10 months later, 9 months later?
Yeah.
Probably.
If
trying to get a couple of guys to meet up for a drink. And we are actually going to do that.
There's a reason for that, though, isn't there? So
there is. We're going to go do the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride for men's mental health and for prostate cancer, actually, I think it is. Yeah. So, we're doing that in a couple of days' time. No, a couple of weeks' time, I should say. But trying to, having like conceptually gone, let's meet up. We've definitely got things in common and we live nearby, etc., etc. It's proved incredibly challenging.
Really challenging.
Just to try and get, are you free that day?
Yeah.
But yeah, we are meeting up in 2 days' time, I think, for a drink as a sort of preamble to getting together on the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride.
Even close friends. But I struggled to get.
But you feel, I mean, like you used to, well, not used to this. This thing happened when you were a kid, but as a grown up, when you're, texting someone, you think, you kind of think, oh, am I being too needy here? Should I really chase the fact that they didn't respond to that text from last week? So there is a whole thing about being awkward. But as many of the sort of articles, if you read on this topic, they say, don't interpret the silence as rejection.
And don't overthink it.
Right? And don't overthink it. Because other people are busy too. Absolutely. They've got shit to do and they didn't.
And there are so many messages coming in that you actually, I missed some too. But it is because you'd think when you get to our age that life gets slower for people. So we've got people from your 60th birthday, which is 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Who said we must get together after they came to your 60th birthday, and we haven't.
Yeah, no, I know. We've tried with most of them, I think.
Some of them, but we were talking about a couple we haven't managed to get together who said, let's get together.
Yes, indeed.
And it's not that they don't, at this stage, you hope that it's not they don't intend to, that they're just saying it and trying to ghost you. It's just that life becomes a bit challenging. For people.
Well, so I mean, there is, if they've still got family, you've still got the whole time commitment issue.
Yeah.
But there's actually a very interesting shift in people's mindsets when it comes to making friends as you age. And so I was reading, there's a theory apparently called the socio-emotional selectivity theory, which talks about the fact that it characterises, possibly unfairly, young people as having a Pokemon card approach to making friends, which is, how many Pokemon cards can I get? It's like just keep collecting the numbers, right? And they were saying as you age, going through adolescence, into young adulthood, and then into midlife, you actually change your goals and objectives with regards to friendship. And it's kind of based in sort of psychology, really, which is that when you're really young, your goals with friendship are about identity and belonging. You want to be part of a group. You want to be associated with certain things. You want to be seen to be part of the crowd. And so your first steps when we're talking like teenage, adolescent here, when you're moving outside of school, moving into the adult world, the friendship groups that you become part of, there's a kind of a tribe thing there in terms of like, I'm part of that. So there's a lot of identity and belonging and shared social groups. Big thing, adolescence. When you move into young adulthood and you kind of get a little bit freer of that, there's more of a desire for exploration, more of a desire for opportunities to do things potentially that are different.
Right.
And so you're looking for a little bit more diversity. But because by then you're working, you're actually also constrained on proximity, right? Which is you don't have that many opportunities to go find these people or go do these things because actually you're stuck in the office 9-10 hours a day.
Yeah.
So as you move into the world of work, you really have to look for some sort of shared experience or circumstance that's going to bring you together with that person or persons. And that's one evolution. And then when you get into the midlife side, we've already talked about how time poor you are. You really don't have a lot of time. And if you're going to meet up with friends, you want to meet up with friends that matter. And you want the experience to mean something to you. So there's a much higher drive for friendship that is centered around emotional support and centered around authenticity, both for you and for them, shared values and loyalty. So that they call that shift the socio-emotional selectivity, where you prioritize emotional fulfillment in a friendship over just the diversity of meeting new people or the numbers game. You've kind of moved away from that. And you move from the convenience of being co-located with some people, therefore they're my friends, because they're in my class or they're in my office or whatever, to intention, right? And the decisions you make have intentionality about them. And when you're making an effort to connect with somebody, it means something more.
So do you think that it's more difficult as we are older, as I'm experiencing, to make quality friends because it takes time to develop a friendship? So therefore,
it takes more effort.
It takes more
There's
effort.
an inertia. There's a huge inertia,
but also
which we've experienced, right?
We have. But I come along into a new area, and people that I'm meeting and trying to make friends with have got friends. So, and I have said it before in certain circumstances. I don't need another friend. So, why would anybody make the time for me when their life is so full and they've got quality friends? Because didn't we read somewhere that it's four friends is all you really need on a deep level?
Well, so then you've got to distinguish between deep friendships and acquaintances. And it's okay, by the way, to have both.
Well, you'd have to.
It's okay to have a balance of high intensity, deep, emotionally sustaining friendships and lighter acquaintances, right? So it doesn't all have to be one flavour.
Right.
But 4 to 5 was like the core number. They were saying you don't need more than 4 to 5 deep, close friends in your life. But if you want to make new friendships, which we both do for different reasons, then the time to start is unfortunately now. Yeah.
Why did you say unfortunately?
Well, because it's one of those things that you can kind of like procrastinate about and go, oh, well, I can't do this, I can't do that.
So
I haven't got time.
I am doing it.
But they say because of this inertia, right, and because of the awkwardness that you might feel psychologically about approaching somebody, they're saying, do that now. Like there isn't a better time than now. So there's no reason why you shouldn't start.
Right.
You just have to decide to start. And
by inviting someone out for coffee or something.
Well, so then we can get into, there's a couple of techniques they were suggesting about how you could consider who should I try and develop friendships with. And I think there were some things that you were going to share with us in terms of the kind of connections you could attempt to reignite.
So the way I've approached it is to ask people out for a coffee or dinner, especially from the gym, maybe an evening after a class that's not too sweaty and not too late. Shall we go out for a pizza or should we go out for a quick drink? So I've done that. Because you can learn more from somebody. You get much more interaction actually physically with them and learn more about their life than you do if you just do, passive texting for a... Blah, blah, blah. So but looking at who do I want to connect with and who do I, want to have as a friend and why do I want to have them as a friend? It's like looking at who I enjoy talking to at the gym, at work, because of course I'm still doing a state agency, at my networking group. And so, and if I can't see who in my immediate surround, who did I used to like talking to and what was it about them and where do I want to go? What type of person do I want to connect with? Or go back out and reconnecting with old friends is like, that's also a bit tricky because it's been years since you've contacted them and you just wonder how they are. But there's also, so the experience that I've just recently had where the bizarre experience where one of my clients ends up being somebody I knew in my teenage years when I was in Iran, when we were evacuated together in the early part of 1979. That's just weird shit. Because that's massive connection at that time. And then he recognized me, but I didn't recognize him because he's a man in his 60s now. Do I want to reconnect and try and work out what's happened to him and to me over the last 45 years? Or is that just too much time?
Yeah.
And
I mean, good question.
Yeah, is that just too? I don't know what the answer is. Well, at the moment, he's still very much my client. I'm trying to get his house to exchange. Once the house has got to exchange, I can then actually go, shall we go out for the coffee or should I come around and have a chat? Let's catch up. But at the moment, it doesn't really seem appropriate. But I was like, well, in terms of making a connection to new people, is I actively have to go out and connect with people. And I did this with my friend who I used to live around the corner from. So we have both got 2 daughters, my eldest, then her eldest, then her youngest, then my youngest. We are literally within 4 years of each other, and we lived in each other's pockets. And then 26 years later, I moved. So we're missing each other. And so she's got no one she can just pop round to, and neither have I. So we have set each other challenges on go and call somebody, invite somebody for coffee, do it once a week.
Yeah.
I think I've done better than she has, actually, but she's beginning to get there. And then, of course, I've now invited her to come and join my social networking, not my social networking group, my entrepreneurial businesses personal group, so that she meets people as well. So, it's all very well going, I want a new acquaintance, but actually, why would they choose, I want a new friend, why would they choose me over somebody else that they've already got in their lives? So it's important that actually I am present, which is something a lot of people aren't.
Yeah.
So people are looking at their phones, or people have got other things to do. I literally have to sort of kind of like ground myself and make sure that I learn about them. And then, of course, my aging memory, when I see them at the gym, I really need to make sure I've actually taken on board what they've done and whether it was important to them. Not just a bland, how are you? Because I might as well text that. But actually, did this happen, and what happened, and how was it, type thing. So it is a massive effort to do that. But I actually think it does reap rewards. You can make new friends as you get older, but you just need to put time aside to do it.
And you also, I mean, the other thing you need to have a think about is in that circle of, well, probably in the acquaintances layer rather than the close friends layer. There's a question there about how much of that still brings value to your life. So in this thing about moving into intentionality, right, and wanting friendships of value, when you look at your existing sort of portfolio of friends, there's a couple of interesting things to think about there. There was one thing we read about this week was the 7-year rule, which I'd never heard of before.
Well, yeah, I kind of relate to that. So people are in your life for a reason, a season, or forever.
Or forever, yeah. And so they were saying that the 7-year friendship rule seems to empirically suggest that if a friendship survives longer than 7 years, it's likely to last a lifetime.
Okay.
But the corollary of that is that some don't last 7 years. And they're saying that you should probably look at your portfolio and turn over some of that, every 7 years.
Well, a bit like getting rid of clothes you don't wear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in doing that, you've got to ask yourself a few questions. And there's a lady who wrote an article, Dr. Denise Taylor, who had devised this thing called the Friendship MOT.
What's
how you assess whether the Friendship MOT, has your friendship passed the MOT or not.
Shit.
And so they were saying...
What if people do that to us?
Well, you could be. Right? So she's saying, questions you should ask yourself if you're curating your circle of friends, right? Include, does that friendship actually have a shared interest, right? Do we both have a shared interest in something, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
If not, am I getting and giving emotional support to that person? Next one was joy. Does the friendship bring joy? I mean, there's that clothing rule, isn't there, about if you're going to discard things, pick it up, and does it bring you joy? If so, keep it. If not,
chuck it.
Same sort of thing. Does the friendship bring you joy? Because friendships are there for loads of different reasons, right? Fourth one, does this actually support a sense of purpose in my life? Maybe you are the treasurer of a golf club, who knows? And the friendships you have in that world support a sense of purpose for you in your, whatever. And then lastly, does the friendship bring diversity or novelty to my life? Is there something new and different about this person? And any one of those is a good enough reason.
I was going to say, you don't need all four. All of them. It's like, I don't have any friends.
Those are all things that potentially can be motivational to having a relationship. Right. But if you don't share anything of interest and you don't have any kind of emotional connection with each other, and it doesn't bring you joy, and there is no real alignment to the sense of purpose in your life,
so what's the point? And
it's not even novelty, so it's not even fun.
Yeah.
Then you really are just going through the motions, and you're kind of like dead wood, right? So I mean, that's quite an interesting way to sort of just think about actually putting some value and intentionality. It's the intentionality part, right? It's about choosing. Yeah. Choosing your friendships, choosing what sort of friendships you want to have and how you want to spend your time.
Yeah, true.
Given that once you get to midlife, the other thing we didn't really mention yet, the sense of time, right?
Yeah, we haven't got that long.
The point you were mentioning about COVID earlier on, that relates to time, right? And so one of the things they talk about is that as you mature and there's this phrase, you only got 20 summers left type of thing, right?
Yeah.
As you mature and you become more aware of your mortality, right? And you're more aware that time is a finite commodity. Yeah. It's not an infinite commodity. Yeah. Yeah. And so consequently, that's one of the things that drives the change in the socio-emotional framework. Yeah. Because it's a scarce resource. Yeah. And you therefore perceive it has value. Yeah. Yeah. And when you're younger, it's not scarce. It doesn't have value. You can fritter it away. Yeah. Now, one of the things that they did see in a study during COVID, which was quite fascinating, was that with the pandemic and therefore a threat to life at mass scale, they started to observe in the studies they were doing on younger people, they started to observe changes in what they called social strategy.
But so like in the way they made friends?
Yeah. And how many they made and what they were, what sort of friends they were. And during that sort of 1.5, 2 year COVID.
Is that because life was not infinite?
Because all of a sudden, younger people than you would normally chronologically expect became aware that time was a critical dimension. And that it wasn't a given, and there wasn't an infinite supply of it, and there was a risk to it. And so they changed the way they built friendships, and they started to behave like older people. They started to look for fewer friendships, and they started to look for deeper friendships.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And they had never seen that. They've been studying this stuff for years. They'd never seen young people behave like that. Yeah. But it was the pandemic, and it was just the threat to life and the threat to time and the sense that everything was in fact of value as opposed to valueless.
So in midlife onwards, it's important to treasure your friends.
Absolutely.
Because you never know how long it's going to last or where.
If you know it's of value to you and you care about it, you have the ability to curate that. You have the ability to curate that social circle. Yeah. And there are things you can do, which we've talked about today, which will help you both retain friendships that you have and acquire new ones where you want them and if you want them.
And for me, it's a work in progress.
Well, and for me too. So,
thanks.
With that in mind, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and we'll see you next week for something completely different.